Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Quick and Carry Kitchen. I have an amazing recipe for you today. You are going to love this. First of all, welcome to all of you who are joining us live today. And welcome to all of you who join us later. We appreciate both groups. We love our regulars who are here in the kitchen with us almost every week. Hello to all of you. And we love all of you that join us after work, over the weekend. And all of you can get the recipe if you just say yes when we offer it to you. And I want to say something about last week's recipe while we're here. One of you, and I forgot who it was, but one of you had very sharp eyes. In the recipe, it calls for a dab of butter to go on top of each apple when the streusel is put in it. And I had the butter sitting right here, but I got to talking, and you know how I am. I forgot to put the butter on the apples until after the show. I did fix it before they were actually cooked the second time. But in the recipe that you would have gotten for last week, it does say put a pat of butter on top of each apple before you pressure cook it. So good eyes to one of my watchers. Thank you for that. And it probably wouldn't make a huge difference, but I do think butter makes everything taste better. And speaking of butter, there's already butter in the Instant Pot sitting right next to me, and it was splattering everywhere, so I put the lid on for a few minutes while it calmed down a little bit, because the saute function on an Instant Pot can be super hot, and you do always need to be very aware of that. So before I get going on what today's recipe is, I also want to say congratulations to the two winners from last week. They both won a set of our awesome Quick and Carry utensils for the Instant Pot. They're a little longer and they're a little better than anybody else's out there because they were designed to withstand the cooking temperatures that come with an Instant Pot. So last week, Audrey Kretzer and Sandy Diesel Thompson both left comments down below, and they both won a set. Thank you, ladies, for watching the show. And remember, those of you who leave us a comment always are eligible to win one of our giveaways. This week's comment is, what is your favorite Italian food? Because today is Italian Day in the Quick and Carry Kitchen. So most of you know that I love the patron saint of the Quick and Carry Kitchen, Julia Child, very much. She has influenced me in a million ways as a cook and as a person, as a food writer. I just really admire her. Not as many people know about Marcella Hazan. And Marcella Hazan was the Julia Child of Italian cooking. She was born in Italy, married a man who became, his name was Victor Hazan. He became a wine writer. And even though she had never cooked before she moved to New York to be as his wife, Marcella ended up a cookbook writer. She had a cooking school. She taught classes all over the world. And she had as profound an effect on Americans learning how to cook Italian food as Julia Child did to teach us about French food. So today we are using one of Marcella Hazan's most famous recipes. And it is amazing that you can actually take her recipe for tomato sauce and put it into an Instant Pot. Hi, Diane Yoakum. How are you? Connie is here. Lena Wallace is here. Lena has evacuated from Wilmington, North Carolina. Got far, far away from the hurricane. We're so glad that Lena got to get away from that. My sister Sarah is here, and I have to say thank you to my sister for the beautiful flowers that grace our table today and make it look even more festive. I have the flowers from my sister, and I have the tomatoes from my dear friend Joan Olds, my personal farmer and the hardest working woman I know, grew all of these beautiful heirloom tomatoes that you see, and we are going to turn these into super simple instant pot tomato sauce. Okay. Marcella Hazan's recipe is tomatoes, a stick of butter, 1 onion, and salt. 4 items. And you cook it and cook it and cook it, and eventually it becomes the most velvety, beautiful tomato sauce that you've ever tried. It is super delicious, and with a lot of Italian food, the more simple it is, the more beautiful it is. And a lot of people have wondered, why does this work? Why does butter, onion, and tomato turn into such a velvety, smooth, perfectly textured, delicious concoction? I don't know the answer, but I'm so happy that I tried this in the Instant Pot. What you do, and again, this is super simple, I've put the pot onto saute and put a stick of butter in the bottom and let it melt. And then you take a large onion, you don't even chop it, you just put the onion in 2 pieces like that. Just put it down in there. And then you take your tomatoes, and you can use any and all tomatoes that you have left over. And all I've been doing is I take off their core at the top, and you don't even have to do that. Some people say, oh, leave all of this good stuff on because it helps the flavor. You can leave the little leaves on the top if you wanted to. For instance, this one, you can leave the top on it. I take them off. I think it's more just of a habit and just the way it looks. And then I cut them as I put them in. And you kind of want to fit them down in the pot. So I sort of cut them and push them down, cut them and push them down. You can use the big uglies. You can use the little misshapens. You can use yellow, Roma, anything that you've got left in your garden. You could even put a couple green in here, and that wouldn't hurt it at all. And what you're going to do is you're going to fill your Instant Pot to the brim almost, right up to the top of the fill line. I think when I made this last night at home, I was even over the fill line. And you don't have to put any water or anything else in it because the tomatoes are so filled with water themselves that you don't need your customary water for this recipe. So just make your tomatoes in there. Hi, Kathy Genevieve is here. Hi, Bill Kelso from Arizona. Judy Burr, hello from Texas. Diane says that her favorite Italian food is risotto. I almost agree with you. I love tiramisu like crazy, but risotto, oh my goodness. And we have a quick and carry recipe for risotto that was one of the first things we ever put on our blog or did a show about. And I use the recipe from Julie Hahn, who's from Chicago. You've probably heard me talk about her before. She has a blog called Instantly Delicious. Everything I've ever tried of hers is fantastic. And her risotto is outstanding. So as you can see, I'm just getting all of my tomatoes in here. And you do not have to be fussy with these. You just chop them up and put them in. There we go. Hi, Connie Wells. Connie likes lasagna. Is there anybody who doesn't like lasagna? I like it every way you can have it. I like white lasagna, red lasagna, vegetarian lasagna. Stouffer's vegetarian lasagna in the frozen aisle is absolutely delicious. Can you believe I'm saying that, Miss Natural Foods Girl? All right, so I'm going to sort of hold this up and show you. I'm filling it up with just big pieces of the tomatoes. There you go. Fill it mostly to the top. Lock and seal on your lid. And then, oh, hold on. I'm having a technical problem. There we go. Hi, Joni from Buffalo. Glad you're joining us today. Fill this, put your lid on the top, and you're going to lock and seal. Make sure if you have the kind that has a toggle on the top that you've set your toggle to sealing, and then you're going to press manual pressure or pressure cook for 45 minutes, which means part of the best thing about the Instant Pot, you can just walk away. Last night I put it on. I went and cleaned my house, did 2 loads of laundry, put stuff away, came back after 45 or 50 minutes. I let it have about a 10-minute pressure release, a natural pressure release. Be very, very careful when you open the pot because it is a lot of hot, spewy liquid. And therefore you let it cool for just a few minutes before you take your immersion blender. Again, you know, this is one of my favorite things. I use my immersion blender with my Instant Pot all the time, and you're going to blend everything up. And that's how you can get away with just leaving all the skins on. You do not have to de-skin these tomatoes before you make this recipe, which is also why it is so simple. Once you have pureed the tomatoes in the Instant Pot, you are going to turn it on saute and medium. Now, I tried this a couple of ways last night just so that I would be sure what to tell you. It doesn't cook hard enough on low. So saute on medium the contents of the pot for a full cycle of saute is 30 minutes on the Instant Pot. So do a full 30 minutes and then stir it and see how you feel about the thickness of your tomato sauce. If you wanted it to be a little thicker, I think you could put it on another saute cycle and do at least 15 more minutes. Kathy Genevieve has a great question. Kathy, thank you for this. When you do the cook down at the end, leave the lid off so that your tomatoes are bubbling and it's evaporating some of the moisture content. And that's how you will thicken your sauce. And it's up to you how long you do that. You could do 2 cycles of 30 minutes. So cook it all down for an hour and then you will get a really lovely sauce. You are then going to take your sauce. You should test your seasonings. You might want to add a little bit more salt, maybe a pinch of black pepper. And I wish I had done this last night, but I'm totally going to do this because I'm going to make this recipe again. If you're going to can these, put a couple sprigs of basil in the bottom of your jars and then put the hot tomatoes into each jar and seal them with a lid. This is not canning. This is just sealing. And I want to be very clear, even though when I've used some repurposed spaghetti sauce containers. I love wide mouth jars in my kitchen. They all sealed because it is a hot liquid and it's pulling of making a vacuum and causing your jars to seal, but they're not canned. And so you couldn't put those away and use them in 3 to 6 months. You can put those in a refrigerator and use them for probably up to 2 months. I think it would be good. Or when you get done with this, throw your cans in a canner and can them the proper way because you do have to be so careful with tomatoes. But if you're going to use this right away, you don't have to go through the canning step. And I will say this is the perfect base for any other kind of food that you would use tomato sauce for. You could use this to make a meat sauce or a vegetable sauce. You could use this to make something that you put over pasta. This is just making the sauce, and then what you do with it is your own creativity in the kitchen. Carrie, you have a great question. 40 minutes at high or low? Mine was set at 45 minutes high pressure. And I did not have any trouble with scorching. I did check the bottom of the liner when I got done. I really took one of our Quick and Carry spoons and really scraped the bottom just to make sure that there hadn't been any scorching before I did the saute section of the recipe because I didn't want there to be burning at the bottom that I didn't know about. So I think because this is so moist, you don't have to worry about scorching, but your mileage might vary. Hi, Carol. Nice of you to be here with us today. Hi, Cindy Redden. How are you? Deb Hoover. Nice to see you, Deb and Kathy. Very happy to see both of you here today. Hi, Darla. How are you? Rose Demore, my friend. Hi, Rose. You will love this. This is a great recipe, and you should share this with everybody that you know that is a beginner. You couldn't have a better beginning recipe. All right, we have another question. Yes, this could go in the freezer after it cools, and actually, Joni, that is a great option for this, so that instead of canning it, you could freeze it. You could put it in plastic bags and freeze it. Once it's cooled, you could put it in little frozen Tupperware things, or you can even freeze in jars if you leave a head of air at the top for expansion. So yes, this would freeze beautifully. And then, like I said, this is for you to use in whatever Italian recipe you have. This would be wonderful, I think, in something like Urvashi Petra's butter chicken. This would be perfect in that because it already has butter in it. Whatever you want to use your tomato sauce for, this is the recipe. And I also want to just make sure you see, I hope you can see this. It's not red, is it? It's a beautiful orange color, and I think that's because I used a bunch of yellow tomatoes. If you were using exclusively like a Roma tomato, then you'd get sauce that's the deep red color, but this is not going to be red. Instead, it's just a gorgeous, almost a pumpkin color, and it tastes delicious. And like I said, what Marcella's recipe is famous for is the velvety softness of it, and that comes from using the stick of butter. So, all right, great questions. I love it. Hi, Kim. How are you today? Lori, thanks for joining us from Salem, Oregon. Paulette Pierce. Oh, yes, share it with your daughter. Anybody that you know that's still a little afraid of their Instant Pot, this is a great recipe because, come on, 4 ingredients, and you can walk away and let it do all of this work for you without slaving over a stove. That's my favorite part of an Instant Pot recipe. Let's review. You put the Instant Pot on saute and stick in a whole stick of butter and let that melt at the bottom. Turn it off. Throw in 1 whole onion, peeled and sliced in half. Just leave that in there. Then put in all the way to the top your tomatoes. And like I did before, you can take off the tops or not. This one is so perfect. I think all I'm going to do is cut it and put it in. You can mix and match whatever tomatoes you would like. Joanne had a lot of beautiful heirloom tomatoes, so I put in a bunch of different kinds of them. Then add a tablespoon of salt, which I'm glad I remembered here sitting on my table. I'm going to sprinkle that over all of my tomatoes. And then you're going to put it on pressure cook or high manual pressure for 45 minutes. Allow for a 10-minute natural pressure release. Release the steam. Carefully remove your lid. This is a super huge amount of hot liquid, so please be careful. Take your immersion blender, completely blend up all of your tomatoes, and then turn your pot back on to saute for at least 1 30-minute cook down. And if you want to go for a little thicker, you can put it on another 15 or 30-minute cook down. That's up to you. Rose has a great question. You could use ghee, Rose. I'm not sure it would have the same flavor nor the same velvety texture. But if you're avoiding the butter, there's absolutely no reason why you couldn't try it with that. Or you might be able to use earth balance for it too. I'm pretty sure you'd get the same results with earth balance as you do with butter. Rhonda Olson has another question. Can you use olive oil instead of butter? Yes, you could. But again, you're going to end up with a slightly different product than what Marcella Hazan's famous recipe is. I think it would still be perfectly fine. And in fact, if I was going to do it with olive oil, I would add some more herbs with that one. I would put some basil, some oregano, maybe some parsley in the pot and make that a little bit more Italian since you're going to have the olive oil in it. Again, that's just something that you could play around with. You could put herbs in the bottom of the jar. I have some beautiful basil still growing in my backyard, so I think I'm going to put a little bit of basil in mine. Again, with the Instant Pot, isn't it wonderful? You cannot mess up most of these things. They are great recipes. They are easy for even beginners to do. And you rarely can make a mistake with the Instant Pot. That's why I love cooking with it. Elaine has done the stovetop version of Marcella's sauce, and it was sublime. I am so glad that you know about her amazing cookery. Please, if you love to cook, Google Marcella Hazan, Hazan, and look at her YouTube videos. There's wonderful interviews. There's a great one with Mark Bittman where she says to him, I didn't want to make a cookbook. I don't know how to write anything. I only write in Italian. So her beloved husband, Victor, translated all of her stuff from Italian into English. And that's how she ended up with so many cookbooks. She's quite the character and is deserving of a place in the pantheon of wonderful cooks who have taught us how to cook local and regional food from wherever they were. And so I hope that you will look at Marcella Hazan, read about her. She's a fascinating cook. And I'm so glad, as with most recipes, we can take something that was created in a traditional cookery and put it in the Instant Pot for the ease and convenience. So leave a comment for us down below. What is your favorite Italian food? Like I said, mine's tiramisu. Can't use tomato sauce for that, but I love lots of other stuff that you can use tomato sauce for. Carrie asks about garlic in the beginning. You know, a lot of people have talked to Marcella about why doesn't she put any garlic in this? And I think this is the reason. You can add that when you are maybe sauteing some hamburger and more onions and garlic for a meat sauce. You can add the garlic later, but she did not ever put garlic in her original sauce. And there's a lot written about that. And so you can go look at her reasoning for it, but you could put a couple cloves of garlic in the bottom of these, pour the sauce over it, and then it will be infused with a little bit of garlic when you go to use it. So let me know, friends, if you end up making this and what your opinion is. If you like it, what do you use it with? How did this work for you? We love your feedback. We love hearing from you. Comments, questions, concerns, and ideas for future shows. We always love to hear from all of you that join us here in the Quick and Carry kitchen. So for Julia Child and today, Marcella, I wish I knew how to say bon appetit in Italian, but it's very close. Bon appetit!